Storage. Okay, there we go. Okay, hi, good morning. It stopped raining. No, it's still raining? It's pouring. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let's give tzedakah. And we'll grab our tehillim. It's so nice to see everyone. I was away for a while. You were away for a while. We're back. Okay. Okay, so we'll start with chapter 20. Does anybody have anybody they want that we should say tehillim for today? Rachel Bas Chaim Sarah.
Chuna bat Taibo. Okay, Chuna bat Taibo.
Chuna bat Taibo.
And Taibo bat Rachel.
Taibo bat Rachel. Now anybody? Okay. I have a friend, I don't know her Jewish name.
It's a good thing, right? Yeah.
So we can say tehillim for Carol. And I tried to call her to get the number, but okay, we'll get it. Okay, here we go. If you know it, you say it. Lamanatseach mizmar leDavid yancha Adonai biyom tzara yisagefcha Hashem Elhei Yaakov yishlach ezrecha mikodesh mitzin yisadeka yiskar kol mechazecha v'lascha yidash nesela yiten lecha chavavecha v'chol atzascha yimale nirana b'shusechu v'shem Eloheinu nitgol yimale Adonai kol mashalasecha ati adati ki Yoshia Adonai mishicha yanei mishmekotcha b'gvuros yeshay minei Ela v'recha ve'ela v'susa v'nachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu haskir. Hema kor v'nafolu v'nachnu kamnu v'nesadad Adonai Hashia HaMelech Yanenu b'yam karenu Devora bas Rezela Rachel bas Fega. Okay, we'll have them in mind as we study today. Good morning Esther, all the way from Israel. Good morning Lauren. Good morning Helga. Good morning Becky. Hi. Shana Tova to all our Israelis. Okay. Okay, so yesterday I went to visit a friend who was sitting Shiva, and she was Kanaina, her 99 years old. It's a very different way when you come into a Shiva house and they're sitting Shiva for a person who had a beautiful life, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, but it seems like it's an instant thing. You say, what do you say? I'm sorry for your loss, only simchas, right? So the granddaughter was there. She was in her 40s, right? The granddaughter's in her 40s. And she says, why are you sorry for our loss? Why are you sorry for our loss? She lived a beautiful, beautiful life. So we got into this conversation, which I thought we would talk about today. Oh, 1 second. Today is Becky's... Oh, I just missed that. Today is your son's something, Becky. Put that again in the comments. Okay. Hi, Michelle. Michelle, are you still in Israel? I feel like it's a real Israeli contingency today. All right. So we were talking about what do you wish someone when you go to Shiva house, but now we're really now in a time where we wish each other something else. Kasiva v'chasima tova, right? We're told that the more you say kasiva v'chasima tova, you're actually creating malachim, angels, that will accompany you on Rosh Hashanah. So everyone you see saying bye, just say, Ksiva v'chasima tova, a good geben shir, shana tova. You're actually creating malachim, which is really beautiful. I heard this in the name of a tzaddik who said, take the time in the month of Elul to wish others Ksiva v'chasima tova. Shana tova mitzaka. That's right, Lauren. Right. Shana tova. You should have a sweet year.
Before.
A kasiva v'chasima tova means you should be written and sealed for a good year. So when we wish others, so the question we have here is, what do we wish others? When you see someone on Rosh Hashanah, what do you wish them? Let's say you're sitting down at the Yontif table and everyone has their apple and the honey, the pomegranate. What are we wishing others? Okay, just give me ideas.
Health, happiness,
Well,
sweet New Year. Sweet New Year.
Yeah. Joy. Nachas from the children.
Yiddish Nachas.
From the children.
In Chabad we add another word, Chassidish Nachas. Yiddish is not enough. We want Chassidish. Okay. We really, we start asking Hashem for brachas, we load it up, right? What else do we ask?
Long life.
Long life.
Healthy long life.
A healthy long life. It should be a meaningful life, right? That's what the granddad and I were discussing, that life, when you say wish you long life,
Right.
it's not just years. There was a chassid that was once wished by the Rebbe that you'll live many years, and he wrote back to the Rebbe and he said, I don't want long years, Rebbe. unless you promise me they're going to be meaningful, purposeful, toichendik, which means they're not years of, another 30 years to sit on the beach, but years that my mind is fine, I could study, I could learn, I could share, I could help. Okay, so there was one person actually in our history that was actually asked by God, what would you like me to wish you? And I'll give you a hint. He was King David's son, David HaMelech, right? Good morning, Sophie. Good morning, Helga. Good morning, Esther. Okay, who was King David's son that took over his reign? If you know, you can put it in the comments. David HaMelech's son. Solomon. That's right, Shlomo Melech. Shlomo Melech was a young man. And Hashem said to him, what would you like me to bless you with? You are about to become, sometimes I think when someone becomes a leader or a president, what do they ask Hashem in the privacy of their room? They're about to lead a nation, whether you're the King Charles or whether you're President Biden. What do you ask God?
Wisdom.
Wisdom, right? So Hashem said to Shlomo Melech, ask me for anything you want. And Shlomo Melech was thinking, he could have asked God for riches, because then he'd be the richest kingdom in the world. And you have a lot of enemies, so riches, it has power. He could have asked God for long life, right? He could have asked God for strength, to be the strongest king. He asked God for one thing, and you said it before. What was that? Give me the wisdom to handle my nation. And Hashem said, because you asked me for wisdom, I am going to give you also long and healthy life. I'm also going to give you riches. I'm also going to give you the ability to get rid of your enemies. Shlomo didn't ask for that. It's a very interesting insight for us when we daven on Yontif. What are we asking for? And when Hashem sees that all we want is wisdom to lead a nation, wisdom so I could be a just, kind, merciful king. How do I do that? We ask Hashem for that bracha. Hashem then answers us. I'll give you that plus. I mean, that number one alone, that alone sets me off for how I can come into Rosh Hashanah. What should my focus be? Okay. So Shlomo Melech asked Hashem for that, and Hashem gave him not only that, but then Hashem said to him, and these are the words Hashem uses, V'gam oisher v'gam kovod v'harachti es yamecha. Because you asked for wisdom, because you care so much about the Jews, I'm not only going to give you wisdom for the Jews, I'm also going to allow you to get all these other gifts. And Shlomo Melech, we know, was the richest king. He had an abundance of wealth, of horses, of power, of courage. He had everything he wanted. So the question we have is, the bracha that Shlomo HaMelech asked Hashem for, was that a blessing for, which I think most humans ask, whether it's the New Year's in January or Lahavdil our New Year's. I want to be happy. You know that thing that everybody wants? I just want you to be happy. The child wants to do crazy things and we say, but I just want him to be happy. As if happiness, Shlomo Melech did not ask Hashem once for happiness. Can we discuss that for a second? Sometimes we ask Hashem for brachas and Hashem gives us something else. And a true relationship between us and God is, Hashem, I'm asking you for something, but if you don't think that's my blessing, that's for me, then I understand you're not going to give it to me. I bought the lottery. Just let me win 64 million. I not only will be happy, I will give all the charity in the world. I will. But Hashem knows that for your happiness, this is not the thing, and you're not going to get it. We are only going to get things that are for us happiness. Now, there are some of us that suffered a lot. Is that happiness? Hashem, I thought you were going to give me happiness. But the truth is, we don't know what our neshama needs. We have our physical body that wants sunshine, cruises, money, jewelry, pedicures, manicures, massages, big houses, maids, servant. Right? We think that's what gives us happiness. But Hashem really knows who we are. We're not just the body. We are the neshama. And that neshama's happiness is not with these external things. So Shlomo Melech didn't ask for happiness. Shlomo Melech asked for wisdom. Wisdom will give me the ability to see what I need that will give me real happiness. You know, Nikki just went on a retreat up to, and you know, you think you go for pampered, you'll have massages, you go on hikes, you go. But Nikki, we had a whole, on Shabbos, Nikki gave us the review. She learned a lot about self, soul, wholesomeness, neshama, right? That is what brings you happiness. So, you know, there was this philosopher, his name is Rousseau, who lived in the 1700s, and he says, what is happiness? He says, happiness is a good bank account, a good cook, and a good accountant. A good bank account, a good cook, and good digestion. So someone remarked about him, that sounds like you're giving a blessing for a puppy. To have a good boss that gives me good biscuits, that allows me to go to the bathroom. That sounds like the life of a puppy. But what is a good life for a Jew? Not the same blessings you give a puppy. A Jew knows that we need a lot more, and we ask Hashem for a lot more when we come to Shalom Rosh Hashanah. Can you tell me there's a lot of very interesting Torah readings on Rosh Hashanah, which it's not just, it just happens to be, this is the Rosh Hashanah, the Parsha of the year. The select portions that we read on Rosh Hashanah is significant with a very potent message for us for the year. Does anybody know some of the readings, whether the Torah reading or the Haftorah readings, that we read on Rosh Hashanah? The first day or the second day? Anybody? Oh, okay.
Somebody's here.
No, it's the lightning probably. Anybody know any of the readings? Anybody over here know? Israel? Carol? Lilia? Okay, I'll give you some hints. It talks about our matriarch, our first matriarch. You know who that is? Sarah. And why are we talking about Sarah on that day? Sarah wasn't able to have children. And on Rosh Hashanah, it says Hashem remembered Sarah. That's when she was told she was going to become pregnant. We read the Haftorah about another great woman. We also talk about Rachel, who couldn't have children. Remember the second wife of Yaakov? She cried out to Hashem, cried on Rosh Hashanah. Hashem remembered her. And there was another great woman, actually, who taught us how to stand and pray the Amidah. Chana. Yeah. What do you know about Chana?
That she couldn't have children.
Yeah.
So she went and prayed. People thought she was drunk.
Yeah.
But she was praying so deeply, so she could have children, and then Hashem.
And what day did Hashem remember her?
That I don't know.
Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
So we read about those three women on Rosh Hashanah, which is very, very symbolic for us about some great changes that happened in the world. When you think about Sarah, the mother of all the Jewish people, a woman that taught us how to open your home, a woman that had a tent that was open on for all four doors, and at the age of 89, the angels came to visit Avraham because he had been circumcised and said, you are going to have a child, and she laughed, and sure enough, at the age of 90, she gave birth. So we learn a lot about Chnesses Archim. We learn about Rachel, something incredible. Rachel was the choice to marry Yaakov. Sorry, Michelle. No, we talk about Hannah, Rachel, and Sarah. But that was a good idea. Rachel was supposed to marry Yaakov, and right before the chuppah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
What?
The music teacher is here.
She's going to go straight into the pre-nursery classroom.
They're doing inside the classroom?
Yeah.
Oh, pre-nursery?
Pre-nursery first. So we have Rachel supposed to marry Yaakov. Right before the chuppah, her and Yaakov sense that there's going to be some deceiving going on by her father. And so her and Yaakov make a little magic, like a little discreet secrets, little motion. That under the chuppah, Yaakov makes this little thing, and Rachel answers, and they know that they're right ones. In those days, the bride was covered before the chuppah. The chassan did not see his bride until after they were married. That's why, by the way, today we do it differently. Today, the chassan comes, sees the kala, then covers. It's like, we're not making that mistake again. We want to see who we're marrying. But right before the chuppah, Rachel comes and says to Leah, I know that Dad is going to be playing some games here. In case he chooses you to marry my chassan, my betrothed, I'm going to give you a little signal that me and him have. And okay, as I said this, there was like a lump in my heart.
Why would she do that, though?
Why would she do that? That's the first question. But that was Rachel. That is who we come from. A woman that had such sacrifice. She gave up her husband for her sister for one reason. She didn't want her sister to be humiliated. And because of that, Yaakov had Leah. He had 2 maidservants, Zilpah and Bilhah, and Rachel. Rachel was never the one and only wife. Like Yitzchak had 1 wife. Okay, Avram had 2 because he married Hagar. But he really had 1 wife, buried with 1 wife. Rachel wasn't even buried near her husband. Do you know where she was buried? On the side of the road. Cave of Rachel. The self-sacrifice. And Nikki, you said, but why? That's the question that we have about Jewish women. But why would she do that? Why would she give up her house to have guests? Why would she give up her money to feed someone else? Why would she give up her shoes to give someone? Why?
That's different, though, I think.
There's sacrifices that every one of us makes. And we got that from Rachel. Rachel enabled, because we each have a little DNA from Rachel. So when you look at yourself and you do crazy things, right? You wake up at 6 a.m, you shut up your kids to cheder. But why? But why? There's a public school right across the street from you, Nikki. Why? Think about things that you do, right? And you think, why? We are as Jewish women, we think we're normal. We're not. We are not normal women. We Jewish women do things that are above and beyond crazy because we had a mother like Rachel. We had a mother like Sarah. We had an ancestor by the name of Hannah who cried for a child in the tabernacle, and she was mumbling words. So when you daven Shemona Esrei, right, and you're not saying it out loud, you look crazy. To someone who doesn't know, you look crazy. How many times have you stood at an airport like this? I've just done it now over the summer about 10 times. I'm there in the airport, my flight's delayed, I'm davening. I stand on the side and I mumble. People think I'm nuts. Today, not so much, because people think you're on your phone and they think you're just talking. Yeah. So it's not so, it's funny because...
Bend.
Yeah, so you're bending. But, when I used to walk to shul, I always liked to say chapters of Tehillim or the 12 Psukim. I figured I'm walking to shul anyway. I might as well say words of Torah. But I was always conscious about it because cars driving by, I see now everyone is talking to themselves. Yeah. Everyone is talking about. So now I'm singing Tanya, I'm saying Tehillim, whatever I know by heart, and without even a worry. So that saying the Shemona Esrei by heart, but saying it by quietly, that was from Hannah. But we read about all these women on Rosh Hashanah because they're giving us these Very, very important messages. That it's not about chasing happiness. That's not what we're here for. We're here about gaining wisdom, but Torah wisdom, godly wisdom. I know that each one of us as women, one of the things we always say is Hashem. We say it as Shemona Esrei, and it's funny, but it's one of the, there are 19 prayers in the Amidah, right? One of them is, Hashem, give me the wisdom, chonen v'das. Give me the blessing of chonen v'das, the wisdom and understanding. And it's funny, like, we ask Hashem to give us health, we ask Hashem to give us fortune, we ask Hashem. Why are we asking Hashem for chonen das? Because as a woman, wife, mother, friend, I'm always asked by our children or friends questions on, what do you think about this? What's the right thing about this? How do you think I should handle that? How many of us get these calls from our children? Non-stop.
So it makes sense. You need the wisdom
We need
in
the
order
wisdom.
to know how to do everything else.
Yes. And it's a bracha we ask Hashem every day during the Amidah, and it's a bracha we ask Hashem on Rosh Hashanah as well. Because Rosh Hashanah for Jews is not about just chasing biscuits and having a good digestion. As Russo said. What? Which wouldn't be so bad.
So simple.
But imagine if all you had was good digestion. I remember like yesterday, one of my kids was born, and a family from the community came to visit us, and they started talking about their children. Their children have the best bowel movements. That was when I didn't know where to crawl. If that's all the nachas you have from your children, oy vey! We wish each other a shana tova, a good giben shiur, not good only in digestion. We're saying, give us the chonen das, give us the wisdom, but give us the ability to know that my happiness comes when I help others. This, how many of us know about Wazatsky tea, right? So the story about Wazatsky tea?
No.
He was actually a Russian Jew who had a magical, successful tea company. I think about this every Shabbos. The box of Wazatsky tea you put on my table on Shabbos? Yeah. Every time I look at that, I think of this story. So he was a very, very successful businessman, this Mr. Wazatsky. He opened a tea company in Moscow. This is, you're talking about in the early 1800s. And he was massively successful. Everybody knew Wazatsky tea. The Jews in that time who were living in Israel, that wasn't Israel then, it was Palestine. They came to him, this rich Jew, because most of the Jews lived in Europe, right? Very few Jews lived in Israel. So all the wealth and all the help you needed, you ran to Europe. So a Jew from Palestine came to Mr. Wazatsky and asked him for a donation. The Jews were very, very poor. That's when the Alter Rebbe set up an institution today called Kol El Chabad, that's still in Israel today. The Alter Rebbe set it up in the late 1700s to help the Jews. People say, Chabad doesn't love Israel. Are you nuts? We're the first ones that invested in Israel in the 1700s. In fact, if you look straight across from the Kotel, if you turn around, there's a big building that says Kol El Chabad. That is an institution. It's not a yeshiva. It's an institution to help poor Israelis. And it helps today millions of Israeli families and Jews. So that whole thing is ridiculous. I know someone told me, someone sent me a message. There's a guy on Facebook that's knocking Chabad because Chabad doesn't support Israel. Goldie, can you answer him? I don't know who your friend is on Facebook, but people still have that ridiculous idea. We were one of the founders of Israel. And yeah, maybe the whole thing with, we don't sing that national anthem, but that has nothing to do with, we support Israel. And today there are over 200-300 Chabad houses in every single city in Israel, helping the Jews when they have terror attacks, not only to learn Torah, but to give them shelter and food. So Wazatsky was approached by this Palestinian Jew, and he said, instead of giving us just charity, why don't you open a Wazatsky tea company? And he said, are you kidding me? Palestine is like the poorest place for Jews. I'll send my check. My fortune is here. I'll send you my money. And then he had a change of heart. And he goes, who am I? I'm a businessman in Russia? Hashem gave me wealth. I am going to invest where there are Jews. I'm going to give them jobs. So he invested in Palestine then, and he gave all the Jewish people jobs. Well, guess what? Eventually, the communist Russia took over the government and confiscated all of Isaac's tea. He was now a poor man, but he had a business in Israel. And because he did a selfless act by building in Israel, Hashem gave him the bracha that Hashem gave Shlomo. You ask for wisdom, I'm also going to give you osher v'kavod. I'm also going to give you riches and honor. Wasatsky moved to Israel. Today, he is the 4th largest tea maker in the world, one of the wealthiest families, because he built, not because of his wealth. He built because he was going to help Jews in Palestine. Wow. So I think on Rosh Hashanah, we have to look at people, of course, like Shlomo Melech. We have to look at people like the Alter Rebbe. We have to look at people like Mr. Wasaski and think to ourselves, what am I asking Hashem on Rosh Hashanah? Am I asking Hashem for my physical needs? Then maybe you'll get, maybe you won't. But when we ask Hashem to give us the wisdom and the ability to help others, then what does Hashem do? He not only grants us that, but he grants us also osher v'chavod. He also answers us, gam osher. I will also give you ashirut, which is wealth, and I will also give you kavod. If we ask for that, then you know, my husband always laughs about the people who are very, very humble, but they always look back to see who's giving them kavod. They had this thing at the, it was like a Yom Tov thing. They were calling up all the very important people in the shul. And then they said, and all the humble people come up. And one rabbi suddenly goes, everyone knows I'm the most humble. And he stood up, and what a joke. Humility is not something you can, flaunt. It's something that you run away from. All Shlomo Melech wanted was the ability to judge others with wisdom. Hashem gave him everything else you could ever want. He sincerely didn't want it. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to ask for wisdom, but believe me, could I use that money? Like, he was sincere, right? Because Hashem reads us. We know the brilliant story of Shlomo Melech. One of the first questions he was asked was by this mother who, there was one baby, and each mother said it was my baby. And they brought to Shlomo Melech, and they said, who's the mother? And Shlomo Melech said, you know what, I don't know, so I will cut the baby in half. And the one mother said, no, don't, give the other mother the baby. And the mother who said, yes, cut the baby in half, Shlomo Melech said, I know who the real mother is. The mother who said, keep the baby whole. That's a Yiddish mama, right? The ability to have that empathy and that compassion. That's where Shlomo Melech had the wisdom. But then there's another joke, a take on that, was the 2 mother-in-laws who were hired a shatrin to bring 2 young men to marry their daughters. So the shatrin went to a city that was known for great learned scholars, and they found the 2 of the most wonderful, righteous men, and they brought them back to the city. On the way, the Cossacks came, and they murdered one of the young men. So now this shatrin comes back with 1 young man, and the 2 future mother-in-laws are sitting there, and the shatrin goes, I don't know which one was meant for which daughter. So let's go to the rabbi. So the one mother-in-law says, well, cut him in half. Each of us gets a piece. And the other mother says, no. Just give him to the other girl. It's okay. So the rabbi said, the one that said cut him in half, she's the real mother-in-law.
Then I'm thinking, cut him in half and they're going to die. Right?
Send him to her. Yeah, that's the real mother-in-law. That's for sure. But wisdom, right? That ability to be able to project wisdom on others, but with care, but with love, but with that's what every Jewish mother needs. Our children don't do anything without asking us. It's this amazing ability. You know, everybody knows, of course, the chief rabbi of Britain, Rabbi Dr. Lord Jonathan Sacks, Olav Shalom, right? Do you know when he was a young man, he was on a tour around the world. He was ordained as a rabbi, but he wanted to know what to do with his life. So he met with the greatest personalities in the United States. And he went to visit presidents and rabbis and professors. He was a brilliant young man when he was brilliant, when he was older, but he was brilliant as a young man too. And someone said to him, you must visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Now he wasn't a chassid, he wasn't a Lubavitcher, but he was in America, he went to the Rebbe. And he came into the Rebbe's Yechidus room, and he asked the Rebbe, I have 3 options what to do with my life now. He says, either I could become a professor, or I could become an economist, or he had one more thing, or I could become a lawyer. Now, think about Jonathan Sacks. He would have been amazing in each one of these, right? A professor, economist, a lawyer, right? He says to the Rebbe, can you help me figure out which one is the proper one for me to take? And the Rebbe said to him, you don't have 3 choices. There's a 4th choice. And he goes, what? What do you mean? He says, you could also become a congregational rabbi. He goes, that was not one of my choices. And the Rebbe said to him, but by becoming a congregational rabbi, you will be able to help young rabbis become rabbis. And in the way you will be transforming the Jewish world, because rabbis will come to you to learn how to have wisdom and how to direct and how to lead and how to have empathy and how to have, the leadership and the kindness. And he walked away very troubled because he was not planning on becoming. And the Rebbe said to him, and one day you will start a school where you will teach others, and you will one day become a chief rabbi. By the way, the Rebbe told him that. And in a way, Jonathan Sacks actually writes in one of his books, he goes, I actually not only became a congregational rabbi, and not only did I become a chief rabbi, I actually became a professor, I actually became an economist, and I also was part of law. So all the things that he didn't actually go for, he actually did. Because that really answers everything. That answers how you will become a mother, how you'll become a friend, what kind of children you will raise, what kind of grandmother you will be, what kind of people you'll be friends with. It answers everything. If you have, like Shlomo Melech said, if you have wisdom, not only do you make the right choices, but everything comes along. The Osher comes along, the Kavod. And I'm just going to end off with the story of the ability to give is really how we get the wisdom. When we give, one of the things actually in the reading of the Torah, we learn about Sarah's competition. Remember? What was the name of the second wife that Hagar? You remember when Hagar had the son Yishmael? And he grew up and he became a very, very wild beast and a wild animal. And Sarah said, you better throw him out of the house. So they threw him out of the house. Avram sent him out of the house with water and drinks. But eventually, it was very hot in the desert and he was dying from thirst. So she put Yishmael aside and she started to cry. And the angel came over and said, put out your hand to help your son, and you will notice something. And when she put out her hand, she noticed a well of water, and she revived her son. And the commentaries say, when you put out your hand to help someone else, Hashem opens your eyes to all kinds of possibilities. The ability, like Mr. Wasatsky had, the ability to put out your hand for someone else, right? Shlomo Melech said, give me the wisdom to help someone else. Then all of a sudden, Hashem gives you everything you need. So I think the mindset that I'm going to go into Rosh Hashanah, we could just for a few minutes, I want Hashem for the wisdom, but I want Hashem to help me to give others. the ability, you know the story, and my husband says I should never tell the story again. We were at the cemetery. Hi, Esty. Good morning, Michelle. I was at the cemetery this Sunday for a few unveilings, and when I'm at the cemetery, I always go visit my Zalmi. And this time, I stood in front of Zalmi, and I said, Zalmi, well, listen, you are now a neshama. You can do everything to help your siblings. I want you to find the shidduch, and I named the brother I want him to find the shidduch for. I said, everything that we did for you, and I started to tell the story about when he smeared the poo all over his room, and how, and my husband goes, don't share that story. Don't humiliate Zalmi right now. He's just a neshama. Don't bring it up. He's a soul. And he's true. It's true. I really shouldn't bring it up again. Zalmi's a neshama. Zalmi's pure. But when you do for others, Hashem pays you back. Hashem pays you back. So 2 things we should decide for Rosh Hashanah. We're asking Hashem for wisdom. We don't need money. We just need. But we also want Hashem to give us the strength that we can help others. We know that when we get others, Hashem will give us back. Osher recovered. But that's not why we're going to do it. Hashem, I spoke about last week in Shul, or was it 2 weeks ago, spoke about that we are a mashpia or makabel. Every morning you wake up, you have 2 choices. You could be a mashpia, that you're going to be a giver, or you could be makabel, a receiver. And sometimes it's very nice to be a receiver. People give you money, you go to your PayPal, you got a lot of money, very nice, very nice. No, I don't want to be a receiver. Hashem bless me, I should be able to be a giver. So I'm wishing all of you, a good gebench yar, may all of you be blessed with wisdom, with knowledge, of course with good health, but to be able to be a mashpia to your spouses, to your children, to your neighbors, to your community, that you should just be the giver. And then whatever comes with it will come with it. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.